Hello everyone. I just wanted to come on and share some things with you that I have been studying in the scriptures in relation to the divination arts that were actually documented in the Bible. And there's a couple of interesting stories both in Exodus and in Daniel about this. So in Exodus 7 is the story of Aaron and Moses, who went to the Pharaoh to tell the Pharaoh that the Lord was commanding him to let the Israelites leave Egypt. And there was a series of plagues that were brought upon Egypt as a result of Pharaoh not letting the Lord's people, go out of Egypt. So we have a miracle that was performed by Aaron that was then copycatted by the wise men and sorcerers that the Pharaoh had. So in chapter 7, verse 10, Moses and Aaron went to the Pharaoh as the Lord had commanded, and Aaron threw his staff down in front of the Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a snake. Then what happened, is that Pharaoh summoned the wise men and the sorcerers, and the Egyptian magicians also did the same things by their secret arts. Each one threw his staff down, and it became a snake. But Aaron's staff swallowed up their snakes. And that's the first time that the Pharaoh's heart was hardened. The second thing was the first plague. So that was when the Lord told Aaron and Moses to have Aaron take his staff down, and basically that the river would turn to blood. So the Lord said to Moses in verse 19, "Tell Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over the streams and canals, over the ponds and the reservoirs, and they will turn to blood. Blood will be everywhere in Egypt, in the wooden buckets and the stone jars." So he raised his staff in the presence of Pharaoh and his officials and struck the water of the Nile, and all the water was turned into blood. But in verse 22, the Egyptian magicians actually did the same thing by their secret arts. And then Pharaoh's heart became hardened, and he would not listen to Moses and Aaron. Then we get to the second plague, which was the plague of the frogs. And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land. But the magicians also did the same things by their secret arts. They also made frogs come up on the land of Egypt. So a lot of times people say, well, this magic and this divination and these secret arts don't work. So, but in actuality, this actually did happen, and it was biblically documented. But here's the interesting thing. We get to the next plague. We get to the plague of the gnats. And the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron to stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the ground, and throughout the land of Egypt the dust will become gnats." They did this when Aaron stretched out his hand with the staff and struck the dust of the ground. Gnats came upon men and animals. All the dust throughout the land of Egypt became gnats. But this time, on the third plague, when the magicians tried to produce gnats by their secret arts, they could not. The magicians said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." We go through all the subsequent plagues: the plague of flies, the plague on the livestock, the boils, the hail, the locusts, and the plague of darkness, and then the plague of the firstborn being killed. The magicians could never ever recreate any of these other things. They could never ever recreate. So at the third plague, God actually stopped. He stopped their power from being able to happen at all, which tells us that God in heaven is always in charge, and that God in heaven has the real power, and that these magic arts of trickery and everything, while people can make things happen, that is not where the real power lies. The real power lies in what God and God can do. Then we go to the book of Daniel, which I'm having trouble finding in my Bible, which is kind of funny because I just had it. It's after Ezekiel. We get to Daniel, and what happens in Daniel was Nebuchadnezzar had this dream, and it was troubling him so badly. And this dream is, Daniel ends up interpreting this dream, and it's of this, gold statue and all of these things. So when Nebuchadnezzar had this dream in the second year of his reign, he summoned magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. And he wanted to know what it means. And he told the astrologers answered the king and said, tell us your dream and we will interpret it. So these were astrologers. These were people who were supposed to be able to tell the future or tell information about something that had happened in your past or your future. So he told them basically, if you don't tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I'm going to have you cut into pieces and your houses will be turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards of great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it. So they basically said, we can do this, and then the king answered again and said, you're trying to buy time. If you can't tell me the dream, you have one penalty, and I'm telling you, I'm going to take you out. But then the astrologers basically said to the king about this dream, there is not a man on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among men. This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men in Babylon, and that he issued a decree to have them put to death. And then what happens is God's appointed servant, Daniel, ends up coming in to actually interpret the dream. Sorry guys, I'm having a low battery situation on my phone. So again, this tells us God had the ultimate power, and he did not allow the astrologers to actually interpret that dream. He took their power completely away from them. He took any kind of knowledge or anything that had been given to them by Satan, and God took it away, and he did not let them have the ability to do that. So just two really interesting things that have come up for me in this is that there is no real power in any of this stuff. That it is, so much of it is false information, no information, best guessing, those kinds of things. And then I also want to tell you all that I am putting together some playlists on my channel. So I have other people that I'm following. So there's a couple of people that I would like to recommend that you listen to. Also, in addition to me, those people are actually listed in the people that I'm following on my channel. So you can go there, you can find out who they are. There's a wonderful young lady from Out of the Dark Ministries. There's another young man from, his site is called New Age to Jesus Christ. He was in the New Age for 30 years, came out of it, has an amazing story, an amazing testimony. I'm putting together some music playlists. And then in addition to the people that I'm following, go and look at my playlists, because in the playlists themselves, I'm putting together a whole group of testimonies. I think I have about 32 testimonies from other people right now who've come out of the New Age movement, the occult, ayahuasca. I mean, there's one testimony of an ayahuasca shaman who actually came to Jesus in the jungle through the witness of some missionaries and said he would never go back. There's some really cool testimonies from a lot of different people. So if you have the opportunity to, and if you'd like to watch those and you don't want to have to search all over YouTube, I've kind of become a little bit of a testimony troller, if you will, because I enjoy watching other people's testimonies who've had some of the same experiences that I've had. But if you want a place where you can go and watch a whole lot of different testimonies, and you don't want to have to search from YouTube, please go find that there. Doreen Virtue, she was one of the largest, well, she was an angel card designer. She was into tarot cards very heavy. She considered herself a witch. She was like one of the premier names in angel card and tarot card decks. She has her testimony on there. Stephen Bancarts, who was one of the top New Age bloggers and writers, he has his testimony on there. So many other people. So if you want a place where you can actually go and do that, I'm actually putting together a praise and worship music playlist as well. So if you're interested in that and you want to listen to that, you can listen to that through this site as well, or through my YouTube channel as well. So go check out who I'm following, look at some of the playlists so that you can see some other people's testimonies on there, because they're really insightful and really, really cool to watch. I hope everybody has a good time with that, and I'm going to sign off for now. I'll be back with another video doing some more extensive talk on New Age concepts and how they are contrary to what the Bible actually says. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.